Welcome everybody to another APPify the Processes webinar. Today we have Oz Development with us talking about extend QuickBooks to streamline e-commerce and shipping. Thank you guys for joining me today. My name is Michelle Long. As you know, I'm a CPA with an MBA in entrepreneurship. I'm the owner of Long for Success, the author of several different books. You can check those out on Amazon if you're interested. Also co-host of the award-winning Ultimate Accounting Decon. We had another great one in July. The LinkedIn group now is approaching 90,000 members. That's a great resource. I would encourage you to join Successful QuickBooks Consultants. When you have questions, that's a great place to turn. I'm also thrilled to say that now I'm an international trainer for Intuit, and I've had the privilege of going across not just the U.S. and all across Canada, but also to Australia and London, teaching other accountants about QuickBooks. We also have some great guests with us today. Brian and Jason, you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves quickly?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. This is Brian Hodson, and I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at Oz Development. Our solutions for OzLink, which really extend QuickBooks in a few areas. We'll get into that. We're excited to be part of this, and we have a large customer base that leverages QuickBooks, and it's always interesting to speak out to that group. There's very interesting businesses we come across. We'll talk a bit about that today, some of the use case scenarios and different customer examples. So we're pretty excited. Jason?
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Brian. My name is Jason Hancock, and I am the QuickBooks Channel Manager here at Oz Development. And I'll be writing on Brian's coattails for today's call.
Very good. Thank you both. I appreciate that. Let's find out about a little bit about you all who's listening today. So I just launched a poll question. If you can answer this poll question for me and let me know which one of these describes you. Are you an accountant, a bookkeeper, a consultant, or are you perhaps a small business owner or a student and not working with clients? That just helps us to get an idea of who's on the webinar with us today. So if you can answer that poll question for me, that would be fabulous. All right, so we've got a lot of you answering it. The faster you answer it, the faster we can move on. So thank you for that. And I've got my questions logged too. If you have questions throughout the webinar today, if you could go ahead and type them in that question box, and I will be reading them to Brian and Jason to let them answer questions as we go along. So that's how you're going to communicate with us, is by typing your question in that question box. Okay, we've got over 90% of you that have answered that poll question. We're up to 94%. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and share the results so you guys can see, too, who we have listening. So let's close it and share it. And you can see we have 41% of your accountants, 72% bookkeeper, 41% consultants, and we have 20% or 21% that are a small business owner. Very good. Thank you guys all for joining us. I appreciate that. Okay, so now we should be back to, you guys haven't been seeing my screen, have you? How come you didn't tell me that, people? Okay, well, you didn't miss anything yet except our pictures. So I'll tell you what, if you want to see what Brian and Jason look like, there you go. I'll let you get a look at them so you can know who's talking to you. I know I've met some of you at previous conferences, and it always helps when you can put a name to a face or a name to a voice in a situation. So, okay, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about an overview of Oz. We're going to learn more about Oz development. Then they're going to talk to you about some QuickBooks automation scenarios and how this might apply to some of your small business clients or to your business if you're a small business owner. You're going to actually get a demo of OzLink and see how it works to give you an idea of how it can really streamline the processes. Then you'll learn more about the Oz Development Partner Program, and then we're also going to have a summary with some links to additional information there, as well as a Q&A throughout the webinar and at the end of this webinar today. So first of all, we're doing this as part of the APPify the Processes webinar series. And some of you have been following along, you've done several of these over the past few months. And the whole idea here is we want to APPify the processes. When you have a small business, you've got your accounting system in the middle. And then we have all of these processes that a lot of times need to feed data into the accounting system. And we really want to streamline our processes so we're not duplicating any duplicate entry. You don't want to have to enter something over here in a third-party system and then come back and manually enter it into QuickBooks. So you don't want to do things manually like with Excel or things like that. We really want to streamline the processes so that the business can operate more efficiently and be more productive. And that's where something like Ozlink can really help with that. When you look over there on the side of marketing, sales, and receivables, where it comes to e-commerce and things like that, as well as operations and dealing with inventory and shipping and stuff, this is where Ozlink can help. And this is where we can help by implementing something like this to help streamline those processes. So we will be putting this webinar, and there's other webinars out there about APPifying the processes from other apps that will help, like Concur and Bill.com and Avalara, T-Sheets, different apps that help with different areas of that business. So you can watch this again later at my YouTube channel there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brian and Jason and let them kind of take over here. So who's going to talk first? Brian, are you up?
It's me, Brian, and thanks, Michelle. Really appreciate the background and the intro. As I said, we're excited. If you want to go to the next slide, sort of a bit of background on Oz Development and the company. We've been around a little over 12 years, and the core sort of technology we have is an integration platform. And what we do is we do extensions to the core business application for customers, in this case QuickBooks. And the thing that makes it fun for us is we talk to tens of customers a week running QuickBooks, and each one has some unique scenario in their warehouse, how they're getting goods out, and they're really kind of pretty interesting businesses. So learning about each one and how we can sort of extend QuickBooks to streamline their business is sort of what we love to do. We joke here that we get excited with things like shipping labels and advanced ship notices and those things. Not a lot of people do, but it creates for a fun environment being able to help customers. The founding team also founded a product called Clippership, which was a multi-carrier shipping solution, probably the most dominant one in the market. So we really do have a tremendous background sort of in that warehouse inventory. If you're thinking of APPifying the operations, that's where we grew up. So we have over 400 QuickBooks customers. We tend to work directly with them in conjunction with the partners. We have a very strong relationship also with UPS, which will say we have a customer and they want to streamline their shipping. They're running QuickBooks. How can you guys help? And we'll go through a number of processes. And some of those use case scenarios we'll go through today. We try to use as many customer examples as possible. Hopefully that resonates as you guys think about your customers. If you're a bookkeeper or a consultant, if you're end user, it might hopefully resonate with some of the processes you have. So we'll go through and try to relate all these to specific customer examples. This year we've won a number of awards, which we're quite proud of. The Pacesetters Award is for one of the fastest growing companies, private companies in Massachusetts, and then a number of others in the supply chain space by trade magazines in the supply chain space. So, and then these customers, just an example of some of the customers that run QuickBooks, and we have specific case studies on a number of these. Julian Bakery actually is pretty interesting. We have a case study. They also created a video just highlighting the success that they had in streamlining their process and really being able to grow their business. They do low-carb, organic breads, and they have a retail store, and with their own e-commerce business, it's just been exploding, and they've been selling that all across the country. So we help streamline that process. And then we'll go into deals each customer as we go. If you want to just jump to the next slide. In terms of how we extend QuickBooks, it's really in three fundamental areas. Starting with the sales and marketing and the e-commerce side, being able to take orders that exist in an e-commerce shopping cart, a Magento, a Illusion, Amazon, eBay, getting those orders into QuickBooks. QuickBooks is your system of record, keeping track of certainly financials, accounting, but maybe it's also doing inventory, those things. So getting those orders in without having to type them in, without duplicate data entry, making errors, those other things, and synchronizing those external e-commerce applications with what's happening in QuickBooks. Second area is around the warehouse, being able to streamline the pick, pack, ship process in the warehouse by producing that might be a master pick sheet, some of those things, and extending that core capabilities of Auslink to streamline that fulfillment process. And then finally, in the area of shipping, a set of being able to streamline that shipping process across different carriers, batch shipping, and again, we'll get into some details and specific customer examples as we go. If you want to jump to the next slide, Michelle. So, as I said, we do a lot of examples around customers, and so these are again all some QuickBooks customers we have in each area. Killer Motorsports in the bottom left. Interesting example, they have a Magento website, and they just saw a lot of growth in their e-commerce. Now, they expanded their catalog, and they don't carry inventory for all those items. So one of the challenges they had was they get those orders in, they're touching base with suppliers who are drop shipping them, they're trying to keep track of the financials in QuickBooks, and they ended up with multiple data entry points, emails back and forth to the supplier with a purchase order from QuickBooks, confirming and those sort of things. So what they did with Auslink is, as that order comes in from Magento and creates a sales order in QuickBooks, automatically within QuickBooks triggering that purchase order, but then Auslink sends a notification out to that supplier with that information. They drop ship it out. That gets fed back into the system, so they have some visibility to that. So that's an example on the e-commerce side. Omega One, or Omega C is the company. We have a detailed case study on that in terms of streamlining. They have a very successful relationship they've done with PetSmart, and we have the demo will be around handling things like advanced ship notices in the warehouse, printing compliant labels for large retail trading partners. So there's some examples. On the shipping side, I mentioned Julian Bakery. Turner Motorsports, another customer example. They were running QuickBooks and Auslink shipping. They provide aftermarket parts for sort of the automotive and race sport industry. And as they were growing, they expanded. They decided they needed something in addition to QuickBooks for their inventory, and they went to Activate to provide the inventory, their order management layered on top of QuickBooks financials. They went down that, and they said, we'd really like to keep the Auslink shipping because it's so streamlined and efficient. So as they went up to Activate, we updated the shipping solution to work with Activate, and they continue to streamline and have that very simple shipping process with all the business automated. Now, we'll talk about what types of business rules we can do a little further on. Michelle, next slide. So this is an example of a customer, Atlanta Barber, where they had a retail outlet, and they're running QuickBooks POS in this case, and they opened up an e-commerce channel with Pro Stores, and that channel was growing dramatically. And when they first opened it up, they really weren't sure what sort of volume and revenue growth they'd get from it. So they were taking those orders, they would type them into QuickBooks POS. The operations manager was spending half of his Sundays doing this, typing into POS. And then when they go to fulfill them during the week, they would pull them out of the QuickBooks POS system, type them into UPS WorldShip, manually update the QuickBooks POS system, and manually update Pro Stores, which would send out an email. So what we work with Atlanta Barber on doing is really integrating these three different applications: the Pro Stores, which is their shopping cart, their e-commerce platform, QuickBooks POS, and UPS WorldShip. So right now, with a single click, Auslink pulls all of the orders out of Pro Stores, puts them into point of sale, and that synchronizes with, now they have that as for their inventory for both of their online orders from Pro Stores as well as their in-store retail outlet. Then as they fill orders during the week, they process those. We pull, again, that order information out of QuickBooks POS into WorldShip, and real-time, as those items get shipped, update the costs and tracking back into QuickBooks POS, and simultaneously update Pro Stores. So it completely eliminated the need to do this prep work and sort of manual loads on Sunday, and dramatically cut down on errors in terms of duplicate data entry, maybe picking the wrong time, wrong address, or the wrong shipping method, maybe even shipping the wrong thing. So the order accuracy and customer service was improved dramatically, cut out 7 to 8 hours of clerical time, really cut it down to about 25 minutes of time where Ozlink is doing those processes, and streamline those orders for their growing e-commerce business. So, next slide.
See, Brian, I think that's where really we can really help these small businesses, because as they grow, they start having more orders, like you said, and they start having those inefficiencies, and I think that's where we really can add value by helping them with that stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, a lot of customers we speak to, they'll describe their process, and then they'll kind of sheepishly say, hey, we're kind of embarrassed, it seems broken, or we do things in a weird way, and they don't typically do it in any, you know, like most businesses, they've grown, they've expanded, and sometimes their processes have not kept up, their automation hasn't kept up. You know, they tend to think that they're behind. In actual fact, there's a lot of opportunity to go and streamline these processes. You know, they're busy running their business, taking a step back and evaluating it. They don't have time to do that on a regular basis, and that's an opportunity, I think, for us and certainly a lot of folks on the webinar today. So at a high level, this conceptually shows what we do across that e-commerce area. So there's a whole set of e-commerce applications that we can pull those orders in and synchronize with QuickBooks. And there's a couple of, so there's one, pulling those orders in. And then depending on the ability of that e-commerce application, being able to push out inventory numbers. So if you have multiple sales channels, maybe you're selling through Amazon and a shopping cart, and like in the example of Atlanta Barber, there's a retail store, allocating those inventory and pushing inventory out those e-commerce channels is important. So being able to push that out, and item master details, so that might be pricing, those sort of things. And so that conceptually is what we do in the e-commerce area. Groupon's an interesting case study in that they're building out a marketplace of providers who are doing shipping of hard goods. So things that you remember in terms of buying a Groupon coupon for your restaurant or a hotel. They're doing that for hard goods. So we have customers who get a batch of orders from Groupon. Groupon mandates that those orders have to go out the next day, and they have to go on a Groupon branded pack slip. So we've streamlined that process for a number of customers where we take that, we pull that information from the Groupon interface, automatically create the branded pack slip with Groupon, create the shipping label, and even sort those pick slips so the location of the warehouse is streamlined their pick-pack process. So there's just a lot of opportunity to continue to streamline and automate. And e-commerce is clearly a huge growth area for a lot of these businesses. Let's go to the next slide.
So this is some extensions that we have actually created around the e-commerce integrations. So before the orders actually get put into QuickBooks, meaning it automatically shows up in QuickBooks, we have some these edge apps that will run through the order to ensure order accuracy or validity, to make it easier for your customers to process the orders overall. One thing comes to mind is fraud. Fraud is one of those things that your customers deal with on a daily basis. And some of these edge applications will definitely help your customer mitigate that risk. So we'll go through a few of them here to speak to those points. The first one is order routing. Order routing is really where your customer has a central location but has other warehouses that they might fulfill from. So instead of an order, let's say, coming into the headquarters in Boston, the order may have originated in California or Nevada, and there's warehouses in those areas. So instead of the order being fulfilled by the Boston warehouse, we'd reroute that particular order to the closest in proximity warehouse to those California or Nevada locations.
And that we use, the inventory quantity by location on the QuickBooks side, and we also use carriers. So we might look up the UPS time in transit from each of those locations. So it leverages the inventory more effectively and reduces the shipping costs for that customer. So that's sort of a lightweight order management piece.
And going over to the order screening, where we start talking about fraudulent orders, we've dealt with some customers that look at a few different areas before they process shipments. So one of those type of systems was to look at the bill to and ship to. If they're different, instead of processing that order, we'll actually hold that into the e-commerce cart for manual verification. So that could be Googling the address or calling the customer just to verify that the actual order is legitimate.
And these rules can be, the example Jason gave her is one we come across with customers. They may say if the bill to and the ship to are different states, and simply ask them the question, when you type an order into QuickBooks, what type of review do you do? And then we can automate that. Another customer we had, they noticed that they got large dollar orders that were going being shipped internationally, and a high percentage of those ended up being fraudulent. So we put a rule in: if the order is over $1,000 and the destination is outside the U.S., mark that pending review on the QuickBooks side before it gets released for fulfillment.
And with address validation, this is another area where your customer may actually be having some added expenses because they're misshipping the products. So as the orders are getting entered into the e-commerce cart, we would have the ability to do a pre-ship address validation. So we would use a API for address validation, and if the addresses do come back inaccurate, we will not pull that order from the e-commerce cart into QuickBooks. We will leave that in the e-commerce cart so that somebody would manually verify, Google the address, make sure it's correct before it does get put into QuickBooks to sure up the viability of that address and that order.
Yeah, and just a couple such terminologies. We use the term edge app. So as we're doing that core integration, so the two systems are now talking, let's say the e-commerce and QuickBooks, edge apps are essentially the missing features that you can further automate. The e-commerce application may not have that rule for the fraud. QuickBooks may not. And these are a set of edge apps, sort of extensions that we can add to that. A supplier enablement example with Killer Motorsports, notifying the supplier they've got the order that's got to get drop shipped.
If we go to the next slide.
Image 3D is another customer, and they make, if you send your photos in, they'll create a 3D slideshow, and they sell the viewfinder. It's kind of a fun little company. And similarly, they expanded, they're running QuickBooks, and they expanded e-commerce, in this case with Magento. And the process is slightly different. Again, the Magento channel, the e-commerce was really growing. Prior to that, there's a little more regional business, and there's a sort of an industry of sort of viewfinder 3D guys who would buy their equipment. Once they went online, they were getting orders from all over, and it was growing, and that manual process just didn't keep up with their business. It was becoming costly because it was a lot of clerical work. In this case, they didn't pull the orders into QuickBooks right away. They processed them with straight into WorldShip. So the integration is between Magento and WorldShip. And then based on the order, we implemented some rules around the type of service and packaging that should be required to streamline the cost of that shipment. In this case, it really streamlined their process, saving them over $10,000 a year, and cut down on the manual work, at the same time improving customer service. So that became a very effective streamlining their highest growth channel, which is their e-commerce channel running on Magento. Should I jump to the next slide, Michelle? So the second area in the shipping area, advanced shipping, is really comprised of three things. What we call advanced business rules. So a customer could, we have customers that say they're shipping jewelry. They may say, any order over $100, I want to automatically turn on the insurance. Or perhaps we have a customer we're working with where they're shipping wine into, in this case it was Texas, where there was a requirement that any alcoholic beverage that's delivered e-commerce has to be an adult signature. So based on commodity, setting up that and requiring an adult signature. It could be as simple as things like, all my shipments over 4 pounds are going to go a certain service, maybe UPS ground. If it's residential and it's under 4 pounds, it might go SurePost. It's really trying to take those decisions that might be at the shipping station, off that person. If they have to remember to do something and pick some different carrier or toggle something, that's prone to error and ultimately cost and customer satisfaction. So it's really trying to streamline that process. And then when peak period comes, which we're getting into for many of our customers now, it really makes it a lot easier to bring on temporary staff. Those people who come in, they can be productive within half an hour. We had a customer last year where we did a customer case study, sportstop.com. They did a YouTube video for us. And he said with the automation, they, for the first time last year in peak season, they could bring in some temporary staff. And that temporary staff was productive within an hour. And they helped support them through that peak period, and their order accuracy and the volume was growing, and the accuracy was very high. So, and then the middle is we leverage the carrier software, so UPS WorldShip, FedEx ShipManager, so we integrate to a whole set of carrier-provided solutions. UPS, FedEx, USPS are the biggest ones, but we can also support OnTrack, which is regional carrier out west, DHL Global Mail, which is great for residential delivery in the U.S., Canadian carriers like Purolator and Canada Post.
And with the servicing of all the sales channels, one challenge that we find with our customers is going to be with how the recipient of their product receives the notice of their information. So a few examples here, we have the JCPenney packing slip. We can help automate the selection of packing slips if your customer is working with, let's say, Sears and JCPenney. So we take the thinking out of which particular packing slip to produce for them. When we're talking about a combination packing slip, as you see in the front part there, that will definitely help your customer streamline their pick, pack, ship process by having a pick ticket and an outbound label on the bottom. But the thing is with this pick ticket, they can have other messaging on it when they put it into the box or bag that they're sending to the customer. It could have discount offers. It could, so if it's $20 off your next order of $100, they can have any type of messaging there, along with making their own brand available there so that they can have their own logo, reinforces any marketing activities that your customer might be going through.
Yeah, we had a customer, they did a lot of gift baskets. So the holiday season was huge. Sort of 75% of their business came around the holiday season. And prior to sort of automating things with AutoLink, they produced a pick ticket. They separately produced the shipping label. And then even further, they had a third document, which was a greeting. So, I might buy a basket for, my mother-in-law and have a note in there. They had those three things paper-clipped together. They had issues, getting them mixed up. On one single document, dramatically cut down on the missed shipments of the wrong item to the wrong person, and really improved their streamlined process.
Let's go to the next one. So here is another utility that we have to help your customers really pick up the process in regards to, or speed up the process in regards to shipping. We're one of the only companies out there that has a batch shipping capability with QuickBooks, so this is definitely one thing to keep in mind when you are out and talking with your customers. Basically what we're able to do is pull out a CSV file from QuickBooks, use just the order numbers in that particular file, leverage the API to get the order information, and then produce the combo pick ticket as you see here, all updating QuickBooks with the tracking and costs associated with it. If we can go to the next slide. This here is really an email notification with regards to what your customer can send out to their customers to reinforce marketing and their brand. As you can see here, this has got traditional shipping information, has some product recommendations in there, and this also could be a place where your customer can have some discount offers as well in addition to the combo pack ticket.
Yeah, and this is an example of sort of very straightforward edge app. And customers want to get that email. They want the order details in it, which are typically in QuickBooks. They want the tracking number, which is typically generated, from the UPS software, carrier software.
If we could go to the next slide, Michelle. So here's an example of how we automate the pack slips across many channels. As I mentioned in a previous slide, we're able to help your customer automate the selection of the pack slips. So if it's for Stan, Sears, or JCPenney, we can actually automate the selection of this particular packing slip, so that it takes the thinking out of that particular process, and also make sure that those customers receive the appropriate packing slip and not one from one of their competitors.
And as we see with the growth of e-commerce, companies like JCPenney, Sears, they want to carry more items in their product catalog, but they're relying a lot more on the suppliers to drop ship. So the complexity in the warehouse for these suppliers is increasing. There was a customer we worked with about a month ago where they had Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's. They sort of had they sold pretty much all drop shipped through these large retailers, but they had 5 or 6 of them, and all had slightly different rules on, where it gets billed, the pack slip, those things, and extremely automated and have a single process where Auslink determines the differences, really help them in terms of their operation.
Okay, if we go to the next slide, Michelle.
Yeah, so I talked a bit about Julian Bakery already, and recently, like a couple weeks ago, they came out with a video highlighting the success. Similarly, tying in Magento to QuickBooks and being able to leverage, in this case, USPS and OnTrack from a regional carrier perspective. We're based out in California, so OnTrack serves that market very well. Gives them, good time in transit at a good transportation cost. They can get now with those 2 carriers 2-day delivery anywhere in the U.S., which is important for things that are have things like breads, consumable, where there's a date of might go stale, those sort of things.
If we could go to the next slide.
And then as we expand, I mentioned the different trading partners. A lot of the requirements then drive things like advanced ship notices and compliant labels. So we have the ability to streamline and integrate that process right with the shipping process. So instead of having a portal where the customer is taking the orders out of a EDI portal and typing them into QuickBooks and then shipping and writing down what they actually shipped and what box, all this. We have a process we've partnered in this case with SPS Commerce, and the orders flow automatically into QuickBooks. As they're shipped, Auslink collects the data that's required for the advanced ship notice, or the EDI 856, and if there's a compliant label, often if customers shipping into that retailer's warehouse, there may be label requirements. We can generate those warehouse labels at exactly the same time as the shipping labels. So there's no staging area where they're waiting for the labels, not running back up to the front office to produce those UCC 128 labels. This is a demo that we're going to do because it's a fairly illustrative, streamlined process, and we've seen a lot of good success with this sort of edge app in the last 6 months. And we also have a customer we'll talk about right here on the next slide. Well, before that, so the ASN data gets written back into QuickBooks, and you'll see that in the demo. Jason will go into a little more detail in the demo. Next slide. So Omega C is a customer. I mentioned them earlier in the session. They won a big relationship with PetSmart, and that was going to increase their volume quite dramatically to all of the different PetSmart stores all across the U.S. Now, as a requirement of that, they had to produce and generate an ASN back as well as a UCC 128 label. So what we do in this case, PetSmart, the data, the purchase order from PetSmart flows into QuickBooks, and SPS takes that through their EDI cloud network and inserts it automatically into QuickBooks. When they go to fulfill it, Auslink picks up that order in the warehouse, validates and captures for this particular order what items are in it, make sure that the order is accurate from a pack validation standpoint, but also captures what items and quantities go in each box. And that's critical because it's required as part of the ASN that goes back to PetSmart. Similarly, when that shipping gets done, we capture the tracking number and also capture the data for the ASN and generate that ASN back through the SPS network into PetSmart. Furthermore, when they're generating the shipping labels at that same time, the UCC 128 labels are generated, so they can apply them. They can really have the same ship station for these EDI orders as their other orders. Odlink determines, what should get generated based on the order type. Is it EDI or is it an e-commerce order, which might only need a shipping label? So now we're going to do a demo of the solution, and you'll get a little more detail of how it works between QuickBooks, Odlink, and generating that ASN.
Okay, thank you guys. I think I transferred the ball over to one of you. Jason, I think you have that. And we did have a question about sales tax in e-commerce, so if you might want to weave that into the discussion. And then we've got another discussion about what about Xero or other POS systems like Lettuce, Lightspeed, and et cetera.
Yeah, those are all good questions. So in terms of sales tax, we really try to leverage the core systems that we're integrating. So the tax often is generated, it might be generated on the QuickBooks side, especially if it's an inside team that's doing that sale and sales order captures that, or it might be generated on the shopping cart. We would then pull that information and put it into QuickBooks so it's synchronized, but we don't necessarily ourselves generate, do those calculations of that tax. In terms of other systems, certainly Xero, we're aware of it. We haven't seen a lot of, because they don't do a ton of inventory pieces, we haven't done any integrations, I don't think, to Xero at this point. And I know QuickBooks Online, we have done some shipping automation around QuickBooks Online. We haven't seen the same level of growth sort of in the base as QuickBooks Desktop, but QuickBooks Online certainly is a fast-growing area. And with the addition of Lettuce and the inventory capabilities, we expect to see a lot more opportunity and ability to streamline those processes.
Okay, so what we're going to be showing now is the ASN EDI type of demonstration. So as you see here, this is the order that just automatically flowed in with the SPS Odlink connector with that order information. And all I need to do is go ahead and type in or scan in the actual order number here, or invoice number. And we're going to go ahead and hit enter. What we're going to populate here is going to be the pack verification module. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you do have customers that are doing business with these retail trading partners, I'll give you one example, Nordstrom. If your customer is doing business with Nordstrom, they have a supplier guide that your customer has to abide by that's over 90 pages long. And just to give you some examples of what they'll have to do in order to still use or still be a partner of Nordstrom, they have to use brown tape instead of clear tape. They have to package things in a certain way. So just outside of just the, running through the pick, pack, ship process that they go through, they have a lot of other things that they need to abide by when they're dealing with these retail trading partners. And having a solution as the one you're about to see is going to really help them get through that process a lot easier, and really not be as taxing on their time and resources as it is without this solution. So as you see here is a tax content verification module. And what I can do here is if the items have SKUs, I can either scan those SKUs or just type them in, and that's what I'll do for this. So as you can see, I just typed in 5001, and that's associated to the first line item there. That's associated with the invoice in the background. So I'm automatically going to start scanning these in, and then you also going to see over here where after they get scanned, we're also reducing the quantity or trying to match that quantity as need be. Then for this one here, I'll go ahead and type in 5001 again. And then let's say if I want to do 5005, which is not on this order. It's going to give that particular package person this notification saying, hey, this is not part of that order, you can't pack that. And we'll get into why this is important in just a second. But let's say if they try to do another 5001. We've already met the fulfillment quantity for this particular order. So this particular item is ready to be fulfilled. So we'll go ahead and select the box and close this particular item out. For the next one, we'll just go 5002, enter, and we'll go ahead and pick box number 2 and close that out. Now, let's say your customer deals with a lot or ships a lot of things in cartons. So these are items that are then built in a carton and they're not broken, and they know that there's 12 in this particular case in that particular box. All you need to do is double click on the order and say that there's 12 in there, and they're good to go there. Go ahead and select box number 3 and hit close. Now, the reason why I'm hitting box 3, box 2, and box 1 is because some of the shipping carrier softwares out there are going to be or are using dimensional weight for the actual cost. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this. So I'll go ahead and close that out, and I'll click Done. Now what's going to happen is the shipping carrier software is going to populate it here, and it's going to give me the actual costs. And the way that the cost came up here is because there's 3 boxes, and both of them, or all 3 of them rather, weighs 5 pounds, which is the 15-pound shipment. I'm going to go ahead and hit Process Shipment. Now, when I hit Process Shipment, there's a few things that are happening here. When your customer is dealing with a retail trading partner, they're going to require the ASN, which is an Advanced Ship Notice. So it's a notification that the retail trading partner will actually require your customer to provide once they are shipping out the particular parcel. 2, if your customer is dealing with folks like Walmart or Cabela's, they will be required to use a UCC 128, also known as a GS1 128, and an SSCC code. So there's a few things there that a lot of people get confused about, but it's basically a label that's generated on behalf of that particular retail trading partner and gets slapped on the outside of the box along with the outbound label that we produce. So that when it does get received by that retail trading partner, all they have to do is scan that UCC code, and it's going to tell them what's inside that box so that they can either do a put away or do a cross-dock. And lastly, what we did here in regards to QuickBooks is we were able to put in all the tracking numbers and the costs associated with that order. But one main thing here is with your customer that deals with retail trading partners, is that there's chances that they might get chargebacks from them. So if it's, let's say, if it's the wrong product in a wrong box, or if they mix products, they'll know exactly, they'll get a notification from that retail trading partner stipulating why they get that chargeback. Well, because we have this pack verification module, we're able to tell, or at least put in to the QuickBooks invoice what was actually packed in what box. So box 1, we have the weight, we have the tracking number, we have the SSCC code, and we have 2 of the 5001 items, and so on and so forth. So we'll even go down to box number 3 here, and it tells you that those 12 items of that 5003 in the box 3.
And that's an example of getting that data so they can look it up and really answer the question for that large retail partner, avoid those charges is critical. In this case, we've written it on the invoice. We have other customer scenarios where, hey, they have to send that invoice out maybe to the end customer. They don't want that showing there. They write it to another database. So there's a bunch of different options there to capture that data, but it is critical to be able to quickly look that up and work with their customer if there's any issues. Great. Thanks, Jason. And so I think that finishes up the demo. We could really spend a whole probably couple hours going through the various different feature functions and Edge app capabilities, but we felt that was one of the most relevant ones in terms of what we're seeing out in the market. Michelle, do you want to just jump back to the slides?
Yes, and that's, go ahead.
While we're jumping back to the slides, one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention too is that we do have a pure shipping capability too. So that write back, regardless of the boxer and all that other information, if you have a customer that's just looking for a quicker way to do some type of shipping, we have that ability too, so that we can do a simpler version of what we just showed you.
Very cool. And so does that shipping module work with SOS inventory? I know you said that you can integrate with QBO for shipping only. What about with SOS inventory, which is an app that integrates with QBO?
Yeah, we should look at that. I don't know if we've done any of those integrations. That's certainly something that often what we'll do is we'll look at that API that's available. So, for example, the Pro stores with Atlanta Barber, when we did that, we hadn't seen it, but they have an open API. So our platform has a lot of adapters and connectors that we can leverage to do that. So that would be something we just want to look at and make sure that it's an adapter that we can support.
Yeah, and we've talked to Saddle Oak as well, so we know Neil, and we'll definitely be able to work with him in getting a solution put in place.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to spend a couple minutes just going over sort of how we work with you guys and the partnership. We have a number of different levels, and I won't go into each of these specifically. It'll develop over time. Most of our partners start at that referral level, which is basically a lead referral. Most of our sales are with partners, whether that's UPS, SBS Commerce, what have you. And so we're very comfortable knowing, really understanding sort of the account relationship and supporting you if you're working with a customer in, the flow of information as that, managing that account. Now, as based on the level of business, partners go from sort of referral where you get a 10% of the activation fee up right through. We have customers who private label a solution, sell it on their own. They do all of the services, and in that case, there's a subscription. Pretty much all of our solutions have a monthly subscription. It's a cloud-based solution that gets deployed from our data center. It runs locally, so from a performance issue, there's no issues. And then some of the solutions also have a configuration setup that typically our services team does based on that customer. A lot of the customers have unique business processes, and we're really putting together, snapping together those edge apps for what they see as a tailored solution, but we can do it fairly quickly, sort of in a tailored solution like a lot of the case studies we talked about today. They're up and running in 3 weeks from the time we set up, this scope and this process automation makes sense. So there's really
Brian,
a lot. Go ahead.
I think it's just great that you guys can do that, because like myself, I might recognize my client has a problem. They're not operating efficiently. They need help. But yet I don't know all the details and all the, can we do this edge integration and can we do that? And so I'm really glad that you guys are there for us to turn to partner with you guys to say, hey, I've got a client that has a mess. I'm not sure, but can you help them?
And
so
typically what we do there is we do
great.
what we call a discovery call. We just step the customer, step us through how do your orders come in? Are they e-commerce? Do you have trading partners? Do you have a sales team? How do they get into QuickBooks? How do you pick them? Do you pick them by order? And we just step through that. It takes probably anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. And from that, we have a pretty good feeling, okay, here are the options. Because the solution is very granular, some customers might start with, we have a QuickBooks out-of-the-box solution that really takes no setup. They can download it and start running it within 5 minutes and start shipping out of QuickBooks. And that's maybe where they start, because that's maybe the most painful piece from a time perspective and error perspective. Then they may add things like advanced ship notices. Most of our customers start with something pretty straightforward and add to it. About 30% of our business comes from people saying, hey, I solved this problem 6 months ago, now I want to solve this next issue. Or maybe they have a new trading partner, or they're opening up a new sales channel, those sort of things. So if you want to just jump to the next slide. This is just a quick summary, because there is actually a number of different solutions. So we have three sort of at a high level. UPS shipping, we have a UPS-only solution. It's called OzLink for UPS Pro for QuickBooks. It provides shipping straight out of QuickBooks integrated with UPS WorldShip. And there's no setup fee. It starts at $29 a month for ShipStation. But it doesn't support some of the advanced capabilities, like the advanced ship notice, e-commerce integration, those things. But as I said earlier, a lot of customers, they start there. And as their business grows, their needs grow. So there's a lot of entry points that we can help sort of, with some of the pain points in customers. The next level up is multi-carrier. And that also can be activated from, without any setup, but it can be expanded to support a lot of the advanced capabilities you saw, whether that's things like branded pack slips, emails, advanced ship notices. And then there's a third solution, which we call OzLink Channel, which is really that front end integrating the various e-commerce. OzLink, the e-commerce piece is very commonly sold alongside the OzLink shipping with some of those advanced modules.
Yeah, and just to clarify, what we mean by per station, we mean by per computer that prints off a shipping carrier label, just so that you have that clarification.
Yeah, for you, in the front office, it might be a user who's pulling their orders in from Magento into QuickBooks, for example.
Go to the next slide.
So in terms of incentives, we have an incentive for anyone on the phone here who wants to think, oh, this customer rung a bell. We have a similar situation. We're going to do, for any leads submitted by September 30th, we're going to do a drawing for an iPad mini. And then if any deals that close by the end of October, we will double the commission. So for the most part, that'll start at that 10%. We double that for that activation fee. You can always reach out to us it'll get to Jason or myself at sales@ozdevelopment.com. You can phone us. The monthly subscription, one thing important to understand is, we provide that the business is run here outside of Boston. Our support team, our implementation, engineering team are all here. So when customers phone, we pick up the phone, we talk to the people live, and get a very quick response time. It's a mission-critical function that we support. If customer is shipping for whatever reason, maybe QuickBooks got upgraded or WorldShip got upgraded, goes down, then we'll get them up and running, very quickly with a good, level of support. And that's part of that monthly subscription, is to maintain that integration and that phone support.
So Brian, just to clarify, let's say I've got a client and, they've been trying to do all this, and I realized that, hey, I think this could help them, but I don't know enough. So you're saying that I can contact you guys and we can do a call and you can talk with the client with me so that we can talk through it. So I don't have to be an expert in OzLink and all this integration. I don't have to know all those details.
Absolutely. And then, it's just not just OzLink. It's around sort of how that warehouse works, inventory, how it works with QuickBooks. Those sort of things are really what we do. And as I said earlier, we might get off a call and say, that's really cool. We're talking about a barcode label. So we love that stuff.
So what about the training and support? Is that something that you all will provide to them? Am I expected to do that? What are my different options? What if I want to learn more about it and start, specializing in this?
Yeah, so that's typically based on those partner level tiers. So at that referral level, the relationship is the lead gets passed over, we help that, and then we'll do the support, we'll do the implementation. As partners sort of gain expertise and they say, okay, I want to do more of it and maybe do some of those services, do that support, the margins and the revenue they get from that increases. And that's a decision we'd make jointly on, if I get a couple customers a year, probably best to stay at the referral. If it's 10 to 15 a year, probably makes sense to move up in that at higher partner level and do some of that work, but also get the revenue and the business with it.
And I think that's really great that you give us the option as accounting professionals, that we have the option to kind of choose, because like you said, if we've only got one or two clients that this might apply to, then just knowing about it and being able to refer them to you for the client to be able to get that help and support and implementation and everything, that's great. But on the other hand, if we're seeing more and more clients that are dealing with e-commerce and having shipping issues and things like that, we may decide that we want to make this our specialty. We may want to get more and more clients like that. So we want to dig in and become a pro partner, a prime partner, learn more about it, and start specializing, because I think this is a great area of need, because a lot of small businesses, they start, and then like you mentioned previously, as they grow, all of a sudden it's out of control. And they have all these inefficiencies. So I think it can be a great area of specialization if you choose. So I like that you give us the choice on your different partner levels. And is it free to join all the partner programs?
It is, yeah.
Okay, very cool.
I think I have one more slide of some resources. Oh, the summary. So, let's jump to this. So there's our website for UPS Ready, which shows our UPS solutions. We also have a YouTube channel and a QuickBooks channel with that, which shows a number of, they're typically 2-minute videos showing both ASN, QuickBooks shipping, integration with Magento, and those be really effective in, just seeing how the system works, but if there is a customer prospect, sending them that link, and they can quickly see, well, this is going to help me, or it's not. And it's, again, it's not they don't have to sit through a half-hour YouTube video. It's not a YouTube video of cats on skateboards or anything. It's just a 2-minute. They quickly see it's going to help, and very effective use of their time, which is really the most important thing. And then we also have a SlideShare channel, which loads up we'll load this presentation on that, but it also has a whole set of case studies and other PowerPoints in terms of process flows and tools that people can use.
Well, very cool. I'm going to go ahead and launch one more poll question that we have here. So if you guys can let us know, based on what you learned today, what do you think? Do you have some clients that you know that might benefit from this? Do you need more details, want to learn more? Are you not sure, just came for general information? Kind of where are you guys at with that? And again, if you have any last-minute questions, please type those in the question box, and we will get those answered. I think this was a great kind of introduction. I know it helps to know about the solutions that are available, so as we're working with our clients, then we're more aware, and then we can know who to reach out to get the help for the clients that we need. So if you could go ahead and answer that poll question quickly. I also want to invite some of you, in case you're interested, QuickBooks Connect is coming up next month. No, yeah, it is next month in October in San Jose. Would love to have you guys join us. Intuit is putting together a very unique conference this year. They're pulling together small businesses, accounting professionals, as well as developers. And Brian, I think you said someone from Oz would be there as well?
Yeah, we'll be there, and between Jason and I, one of us, we have to determine which one.
Very cool. So if you haven't registered for QuickBooks Connect yet, go out to the Facebook page, go to Intuit Accountants, or look for the QuickBooks Pro Advisor program. Look around on one of the Intuit pages, because I saw something, I think it was just yesterday, about a 50% discount. I had a code I was going to give you that was a 10% discount, but that 50% discount would be even better for you. Actually, let me go ahead and close the poll here. Let me go to the next slide. Here we go, information on QuickBooks Connect. You can go to the pre-conference. They're going to have a deep dive into QuickBooks Desktop. They're going to have certification, the brand new advanced QuickBooks Online certification, all kinds of great training for accounting professionals, and then just some awesome, amazing speakers that are going to be available. So if you can attend, this is one of the ones that you want to attend for sure. Okay. So somebody else said, none of my e-commerce clients use QuickBooks Desktop or Point of Sale, so I think the product needs more flexibility. Brent, we were just talking about QuickBooks, but Brian, I believe you guys integrate with other accounting systems as well, right?
We do, absolutely. We do a number, probably 20 different hosts that we integrate with, and depending on the host capabilities and our capabilities, the list of edge apps and capabilities will be different, but certainly we do it for a number of different ERP accounting systems.
Yeah, so Brent, we were just
cloud-based, on-premise-based, mix of those.
Yeah, we were just talking about the QuickBooks today, Brent, but it does integrate with lots of them, so not limited to QuickBooks or QuickBooks Point of Sale. So good question there. He says cool. Thanks, Brent. That was a good question. Okay, well, I see that we are at the top of the hour. I really want to thank, I'm going to go ahead and put that resources slide back up there for those of you that need that. But I want to thank Brian and Jason for doing this webinar with us. We will probably try to do something again with them in the future, so let us know your feedback. What do you want to know more about? Things like that. And I think that's very great. Okay, anybody else have any last-minute comments? Brian, Jason?
I just want to thank everyone. I know everyone's busy, so really appreciate the time you took today and look forward to working with you guys and helping solve some customer problems.
Very cool. Well, thank you all, and thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you go out and have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.